Right. Okay. So today, class, we will talk about the malefics in various houses and also the effects. We have been past 1.5 weeks. We have been doing the effects of various, lords of like the lords of Kendras, that is the angular houses, the lords of, the Dushtana, and the lords of. Now we are going to tackle the lords of the Dushtana, which is the sixth, eighth, and the 12th. And we did last time, I think we stopped somewhere around the ninth house. Does anyone recall that? Let me know, because I can't remember whether we completed the ninth house and then we went to the 10th. I'm not sure, but we'll cover it anyway today. And also, this is a very, very good. Our text is Brihat Parashara Hora Shastra, and there he gives the effects of each of the lords of the houses where they go, and they have a very specific meaning. You cannot, so you have to go through the texts quite well to and there's it's exhaustive. You may think like, oh, it's just a few lines, but actually they have very deep impact and very deep meaning, and it holds true in some way, shape, or form. Okay. I will ask you to please mute yourselves. Sorry. Yeah, mute yourselves. That'll help a lot. Anyway, so this is what we are going to cover. Now, the main thing today is basically all the bhavas. How do we make an assessment? Hey, well, what effect it's going to give you in a particular house, Lord? What we don't know, but we do have very clear guidelines by the sage Parashara about how we can tackle each of the lords. Okay, now the first and the foremost I'm going to go through is the conjunction or the aspect of the benefics, sorry, benefics, that is the benefic graha, that is the planets, right? So essentially that is one of the best and the first one where we look, whatever lord, if it is your lagna lord, if it is your seventh lord, fourth lord, what we are looking essentially for is a benefic aspect or a conjunction from a benefic graha or a planet like Jupiter, Mercury, like a full moon, and Jupiter, of course. And so the three main benefics, okay, we are looking for now. And then we are looking for the aspect of bhavesha. Now, what bhavesha means? Bhavesha is nothing but each house is called the bhava, and the bhavesha is nothing but the ruler of that house. So, for example, your Aries rising, supposing, so the bhavesha for the first house is nothing but the lagna lord, but it's also called the bhavesha. So the second lord becomes Taurus. Okay, so it is, so the bhavesha for the second house is Venus. Okay, and to an extent the moon as well, because it's the mul trikona sign. Taurus is the mul trikona sign for for the moon. So then we look also for an aspect. Let's say you have moon in Cancer, and so that means the sign of Cancer is, the moon in Cancer is aspecting the Taurus, the second house Taurus. Okay, does everybody understand this? This is a very, very important and fundamental rule, okay? That you have to have either an benefic aspect on a bhavesha, any house and this is applicable for across the board, any house you pick up, you want maybe a benefic aspecting it, or the lord of that house, which is the bhavesha, aspecting that house, okay? And the third thing is, you want, let's say, the Rajya Bhava, that is, sorry, the Yuva or a Kumar Avastha. This is a little bit We are going to tackle it next time. Avastha means what state the planet is in. Let's say you have moon as your second lord, your Aries rising, your bhavesha for the second house is Venus. And oh dear, Venus is at 0 degrees of let's say Virgo. Now 0 degrees is a really terrible avastha for Venus. It's like, you know, really low. It's like a almost sort of a dead avastha. Okay, but we will come. We have rules for it. Okay, that 0 degrees of even signs and 0 degrees of odd signs. They have separate rules. You know, so 29 of, let's say, Virgo is, sorry, 29 of Gemini is the same as 0 degrees. Hello? Hello? Guys, can you please mute yourselves? Hello?
Maybe you can mute everybody so that wouldn't be happening no more.
Yeah.
I think there's some, I think there's an ability for you to mute everybody, and then if
Uh,
somebody raises their hand, you can just
yeah.
unmute them.
I mean, you can, you know, you can ask questions. It's not a problem. But yeah, I can't somehow, while I'm recording, I can't find the mute thing. Anyway, it doesn't matter. Let's go. So anyway, so the avastha, that is a state, we will do at a later stage, okay? Because it's like a whole class, couple of classes by itself, and it's very, very vital and important, okay? Then we come to the ultimately the lords of the 10th house, the 7th house, 4th house, and 1st house, which we already saw in the previous classes that they are the Vishnu sthana. They have the blessings of Vishnu. All the angular lords have the blessings of Vishnu. You have to absolutely drill that into your heads, because that is what most auspicious. Okay, and then the Kona Bhava. So maybe your second house, as going back to my example of the Bhavesha, if your Aries rising, your second house is Taurus, then the Bhavesha is Venus or the moon. So we will look for, let's say your moon is in Cancer or Venus is in Cancer. So it's aspecting Taurus. That's beautiful. Okay. So that is a one big tick for that second house. Okay. Then the other good tick will be, let's say you have, you know, for Aries rising, you have Jupiter in the second house. That's beautiful because Jupiter rules the ninth house, the Kona, which is the Lakshmi Sthana. Okay, so Vishnu and Lakshmi is absolutely beautiful. So let's say you have Jupiter in the second house, along with, let's say, Saturn, the Lord of the 10th house. That's superb. That means, you know, you have the very auspicious yoga of the one Vishnu Sthana, the highest Kendra, the 10th house, and the highest Kona, which is the ninth house, happening in the second house. Beautiful. Plus, you have an aspect of moon in Cancer. Fantastic. Three big takes. Okay. So do you understand how this all works? Then, if, for example, you have Venus exalted, then that's even better. Guys, excuse me. Oh my God. Okay.
So now on the meeting, you know, on the Zoom function on the meeting, when you click it, you can mute everyone.
Uh,
The
hang on.
function on the meeting on the up
Oh, there
menu,
we go. Mute.
everyone, I think.
But it select. Oh, okay. Why doesn't it? It says under mute. It doesn't. Participants. Is it the participants? I can mute all. Okay. Okay. Lovely. Can everybody hear me now?
Yes.
Okay, lovely. Thank you very much. I've done it. Okay. Sorry about that. Anyway, so coming back to, so let's say your Venus is in exaltation. So exaltation, Venus is the bhavesha is for the second house if your Aries rising. So the if you have Venus exalted, that is 100% effects, good effects will come of it, okay? But let's say the moon is in Cancer, but Venus is in Virgo. Ouch, that's terrible. Because what that means is that Venus is not going to give that good a result. It'll give almost negligible results because it's in its debilitation. Okay, so that is how you have to make an assessment. Okay, these are very fundamental building blocks. We have to see them all the time. Every single house ruler we have to see to make an assessment. And everybody, you have to understand that not just do we see this in let's say in a natal chart, we will see this in across the board. Let's say you are having a horary or an electional chart. Indeed, these rules will apply. Okay, so then we move to the next thing. So what about the malefics? Okay, now the matters concerning that particular bhava will bring sorrow, suffering, which has the bhavesha if it is in combustion. That means it is too close to the sun. The degrees we have already done. What are the specific degrees when for each of the planets? Refer to one of the older lectures where we have seen that certain planets like Mercury 13 degrees either or is with the sun away from the sun is combust. Okay, so again, that particular house which the Mercury will rule then will be bringing you suffering and sorrow and trouble and obstacles. Okay, that is how you need to assess each of the. So the first thing you will know, and inevitably some planet or the other will be combusted anyway. I mean, Mercury always travels quite close to the sun, and so does Venus. It's never no more than two houses either or. Okay, so there are good chances of Venus also being combusted. So then you have to see what house your Venus is ruling in your chart, and those significations will get you to go through some kind of sorrow. Then we saw that punishment by the king, Maranasthana. We saw certain planet placements are in dying positions last time. Sun in the 12th, Moon in the 8th, Jupiter in the 3rd, Mercury in the 4th, and the 7th house, Ketu, south node of the moon, in the 4th house, and to an extent the 2nd house, and Rahu in the 9th. These placements, and Venus in the 6th, and Mercury in we went through Mercury. So these houses will invariably, if these planets are in Maranasthana, they the the houses that these planets will rule will go through rough time. Absolutely, you will suffer at least once in your life. And hey, you know what? Parashara has no remedy for Maranasthana. There are things that you can do. Indeed, through mantra meditation practice, you can overcome it. But at least just once in your life, you have to go through. It's like paying your karmic dues. You have to give that planet which is in dying position in Maranasthana, you have to give it its due and pay the rin, pay the debt off, the karmic debt that you owe, okay, by suffering and going through a bit of sorrow. Okay, now fall and disgrace if defeated in war. We all know if there are two planets in absolute conjunction, like, partile conjunction, as the Western astrologers will call it, where it's like 0 degrees, both of them are at same degree, but different minutes. It's or within a degree of each other. It's they go into a war situation in Vedic. Again, we haven't covered that. That's a very advanced topic. It's a difficult topic because we make assessments through a lot of ways, not just one, when two planets go into a planetary war. And the fourth from house from there is destroyed. So if this war is happening, let's say in the fifth house, like for example, Lord Krishna had a Taurus rising and Jupiter and an exalted Mercury in a war. They were same degree. And guess what? So the fourth from there, Sthiti, the fourth bhava, which is the eighth house, went into war, and that's why there was the Bhagavad Gita was born out of that war. Okay, so this is how you understand the planetary war. This is serious business. In when you make an assessment, I always look at whether the planets are the same degree, because that is absolutely vital. Whether it is in horary, again I repeat, whether it's horary or any other um, or natal chart, if planets go in a planetary war, absolutely there is going to be problems there. Okay, then you have run away to survive, loss of everything. That means runaway yoga. I my guru calls it the runaway yoga, which is, that is, let's say Jupiter is in Gemini. That means it's exactly ran off from Sagittarius, its own house. Let's say you have Mercury in um, Pisces. Now, Mercury in Pisces is in its debilitation. So there is that added suffering of a planet in debility, but it's ran away from the seventh house, that is from Virgo. So that's kind of like a runaway to survive yoga. Okay. Then we have the trick houses. Trick, the word trick derives from ka. Three is three, and ka is Brahma. Brahma is associated with Shani or Saturn and Narayan. And so, to alleviate the sufferings coming from the 6th, 8th, and 12th houses, we have to appease to Shani, okay, or Narayan, only, or Kali. Only those three can help bail you out of these trick houses. So if you have, let's say, Lagna Lord with or conjunction with the one of the 8th Lord or the 12th Lord, well, you will see some amount of problems and sufferings. Okay, be absolutely assured, no doubt about that. If it is a 6th house, it will give suffering due to enemies, Shadripu. We went through Shadripu, the 6 cardinal sins, the Panchamakara. Panchamakara is the 5 huge temptations because which human beings fall. That's the 6th house signification. Refer to the previous videos on the 6th house, and we have discussed that at length. Okay. Then we have the eighth house. Eighth house gives suffering due to deaths and disease, and Shadripu arising due to deaths. Again, Shadripu is it our own fault. So basically, we made a blunder some lifetime, and this lifetime we have to, that planet has gone into the eighth house. That means we have to rectify the blunder and all the deaths, because we have given suffering to others in some specific form. So this lifetime we have to now figure out that what debt we have to pay, what rent we have to pay. Okay, so the eighth lord then becomes very malefic, and we will suffer because of, in order to pay the debts. Then the 12th house can bring, 12th lord can bring in terrible loss and calamities. Okay, and so if you have any of the bhaveshas or the lords of any of these houses conjoin these, then it's going to give you some trouble. But hey, we can't have everything squeaky clean. Please understand that. Okay, we will have some affliction or the other. That is why we are born. So in order to resolve that, then we have the conjoined, the third house, conjoined lords of the Trik Bhava or evil Bhava, that is third, sixth, eighth, 11th, and 12th. If you have that conjunction, well, that is going to create a lot of calamities. Or you have the drishti of papagraha, or you have drishti means aspect or conjunction with Mars and Saturn and the moon. Imagine if you're Cancer rising and your moon is in conjunction with Saturn and Mars. That's papagraha. Papagraha is like a sinful or malefic planets, okay? As well as krura, that is, they're cruel, the cruelty of Saturn is like death and disease, and the cruelty of Mars is like a bully, he'll want to just grab everything from you. So that is krura and papa, that is sinful grass. So if you have that, then your lagna lord, if you're Cancer rising, it's in trouble, okay? Or it is in vriddha or mrita or pidita avastha. Again, like I said, avasthas, that is the states of being, is a whole 2 hour topic which we will tackle with later, okay? So this is but these are the fundamentals of how we make an assessment for each of the houses, okay? Now, here we go. We are now looking at the lords of the sixth house in various houses, and they are very specific. Now, as we learned earlier, that the sixth house is going to be a problematic house, okay? No two ways about it. Um, the sixth house is always going to give us, planets in there, malefic planets in there is going to like bully us. If you have Mars in the sixth house, because some lifetime you have really beaten up people and you kind of, given them a hard time and grabbed from them, this lifetime, the similar stuff is going to happen to you, okay? So this is the signification of the sixth house, is the Shadripu. So if it is in the sixth lord is in the first house, that is, it's in the Lagna, the native will be sickly, famous, inimical to his own men, rich, honorable, adventurous, and virtuous. Now, here, Parashara is giving a very, very interesting statement. He's saying sickly, famous, inimical in the same breath, as well as honorable, adventurous, and virtuous. Now, why would that be? The reason being that, like I mentioned even in my past talks, that I think it was last week's, and even when we did the sixth house, the lord of the third house and the sixth house, if they get involved with the lord of your ascendant, it is a great yoga. It's called the Dhimanta Yoga, okay? Dhimanta means you have supreme intelligence. And guess what? Why would that be? It's simple. The third house in the natural zodiac is the house of Gemini, ruled by Mercury. So your thinking is very sharp, very clear, okay? And the sixth house, even though the Karaka is Mars, but it's actually Virgo, where Mercury exalts in the natural scheme of things. So the sixth house, that's why the sixth lord, that's what Parashara says, that the native, if it is with the Lagna lord, let's say you have a Aries rising and you have Mercury on your ascendant, beautiful. But of course, you will be sickly, and of course, you will be inimical to your own men. Indeed. But equally, you will also be honorable and adventurous and virtuous and, wealthy. So all of these will come to pass at some point or the other. There will be times when you will fall sick. So that is how we assess things, okay? If the sixth lord is in the second house, the native will be adventurous, famous among people, live in alien countries, be happy, be a skillful speaker, and interested in own work. So basically, these are the earth houses, The second house in the natural thing is the house of Taurus, and the sixth house is Virgo. So the sixth and any association of the sixth and the second, it'll be earned by one's own, by one's own wealth, will be earned by one's own skills and things like that, And why speaker? Because second house is the house of the voice. It's the house of our language, is the birth of the language, um, and that is why the second house it's also to do with food and speaking and voice. So all that is to do with speaking, and that is why a skillful speaker, because remember, sixth lord will have a certain high amounts of intelligence, okay? And of course it will also beat you up, because the other signification is your shadripus, your all your problems and all of that, all your negative vices are going to come at the forefront for everybody to see, so that you can actually take conscious steps to resolve it. Okay, so that is the signification of the sixth house. Now, the sixth lord in the third house, the native will be given to anger, be bereft of courage, inimical to all his co-born, and will have disobedient servants. Okay. Now, co-borns, the third house we know is the house of co-borns, so it is going to be a problem. Now, here we have let's move to the next. The sixth lord is in the fourth. The native will be devoid of maternal happiness, be intelligent, be a talebearer, be jealous, evil minded, and very rich. Whoa, okay. I've put a Bill Gates chart here. So feel free to unmute yourselves. This is a really anybody wants to have a go at his chart? Hello?
Yes, Lord of six is Mars, and
Therefore,
in the fourth house in
Yes,
Virgo.
absolutely. And it is
with
within
exalted Mercury.
Exalted Mercury, yes.
absolutely. So you see, there is a benefit. So that is a bit of a saving grace there. But the significations are not going to be ruled out, because at some point, tail bearer, well, I think he's buying half the planet here. So, anybody who rises against him is runs into trouble pretty quickly. He is intelligent, no doubt, and jealous. We don't know. I don't know him personally. Evil minded. Well, I don't want to start a conspiracy theory here, but hey, we all know. I have to mention this because I wasn't looking for his chart. Okay, and neither did I realize that he has the sixth lord in the fourth. But what is interesting is that I saw this video by Russell Brand. Okay, we all know who Russell Brand is, right? um the comedian, the British
Yep.
comedian. Yeah. And what happened was, basically, Bill Gates has been investing heavily in crops and farming techniques in India as well as in Africa. But over time, I think he's come to replace Monsanto. And what has happened indeed is that they actually did surveyed, this is what there is statistics to prove it, that they actually surveyed the situation of the farmers, and they found that the farmers were much worse off, and the poverty in Africa had increased 30% in the farming community. Okay, and in India the farmers were absolutely horrendous. They were given cell phones which the Indian government paid for. Now, I don't want to make it sound like, hey, this big conspiracy thing. I'm not going to go into that path. But I found this chart really interesting. And to say that evil minded and very rich, well, I don't know. I don't know what his motivations are, but they don't sound very philanthropic to me. So yeah, so here we go.
Tonal,
Yes,
tonal.
yeah.
With the
Cool. Can you hear me?
Chandramangala yoga with Moon and Mars, would that energize the Mercury? Would that energize that Mercury exaltation in the Kendra, the Chandramangala
Yes,
yoga?
absolutely. Because a moon Mangal Mars yoga is very, very vital. I mean, that opposite the moon, Mercury and Mars opposite that moon is giving him all that greatness and the wealth and creation of building an empire. No doubt about that. Okay. The man
I'm
is super.
sorry, I'm sorry to interfere. Can you hear me well?
Yes, I can.
Okay, just I'd like to add something about Bill Gates' chart as we have been studying it quite carefully
Yes.
recently. And there is actually his chart has got that axis, 612 axis, I mean Rahu and Ketu.
Yes.
So he cannot be considered a philanthropic person as this position of Ketu and Rahu actually don't give these results. And besides, as Rahu is placed in the sixth house, he is certainly concentrated on some health issues all over the world. So this is actually what makes Bill Gates Bill Gates. Just I wanted to add this only.
Oh,
So
thank you. Thank you. Is that, who's that? Is that Oksana?
yes, yes,
Yes,
right.
yes. Thank you. Yes, yes. Thank you very much. Yes, indeed. Absolutely. I mean, true. I mean, they are talking about, let's not go there. We can discuss this, another time. But essentially, I just found the dictum of the sixth lord in the fourth, absolutely, and his chart came across. So, and this chart has been rectified by my guru, Pandit Sanjay Rath. So, there is no way that he would. I mean, this is very telling. So, now, proceeding ahead, if the sixth lord is in the fifth, now this is another great yoga to happen. Okay, the sixth lord in the fifth house. It's a very, very, it's called a Shankar Yoga. Shankar means Lord Shiva's, the whole, the Shankar is, oh my God, what's Shankar? The conch, which is found in the deep sea. The conch is very sacred to Lord Shiva because it produces a certain sound which is extremely powerful. Okay, it's called the Shankar. Okay, and the sounds of any kind of ceremony in India, any auspicious ceremony, puja, any kind of thing, we always blow the conch. It's very, you should try getting hold of a conch and have it at home. Extremely powerful and beautiful. So the conch, so this particular yoga is the sixth lord in the fifth, is called the conch yoga. We haven't come to yogas yet, but we will do so in the future. The native will have fluctuating finances. He will incur enmity with his sons and friends. He will be happy, selfish, and kind. So this takes a little bit of a sting away of the sixth house, sixth lord, because otherwise the sixth lord can get quite diabolical. Now, if the sixth lord, again, we come back to this Shankar Yoga, is in the fifth house, the native will have fluctuating finances. Now, we all know about Jim Morrison, right? Everybody knows him, right?
Yep.
The Doors singer, the classic, one of my favorite singers and musicians. Now, he has a very powerful Shankar Yoga. If you see here, if you can see Saturn, even though it's debilitated, the Saturn is debilitated, and Mars is in the fifth house in its own sign, albeit retrograde. Both of them are retrograde. So that means it's even more powerful. Okay. And now this planet, Shani, is at 0 degrees. Now this is what he had, a really tough life in terms of, he was very talented, very original, but he died young, overdose, and he was traumatized in a lot of ways within himself. But he does have the Shankar Yoga, absolutely beautiful, and that is how he rose so beautifully. His father, he was very estranged from his father. His Jim Morrison, a difficult teen who rebelled against his father's military because his father was a naval officer and pretty high up. He fought in the Vietnam War. He went on to become one of the most magnetic performers in rock and roll, but he disowned his family and made a throwaway comment that they were dead. So yeah, so you know, so this has played out. Like I said, the Shankar Yoga, sixth lord in the fifth, will always, there will be some issues with if you have sons, or you know, or if you are a son who's having that, then you will have problems with your father. That's, you know, that kind of a situation is invariably going to happen. Okay, now if the sixth lord is in the sixth, then a native will have enmity with a group of his kinsmen, but be friendly to others, enjoy mediocre happiness in matters of wealth. So I haven't found any examples of that, but we will, but just bear in mind that sixth lord in the sixth is actually, it's all right. You know, it's not too bad. And if the sixth lord is in the seventh, now this is another very tricky combination. If the sixth lord is in the seventh, any association of the seventh lord, because you see, the seventh house is about relationships. It's not meant to have, the seventh lord is not meant to have any association ideally with the sixth house or the eighth house. Eighth house is that's why it's called the Mangalya Sthana. Mangalya Sthana means the Mars's, in the natural zodiac, eighth house is Mars as the ruler and Ketu. So you don't want any association of Mars, the temper of Mars, the the emotional sort of problematic things with Mars coming on to the seventh house, because the seventh house is the house of marriage, you know, is a house of, so you don't want that. But here Parashara is saying the native will be deprived of happiness through wedlock. He will be famous, virtuous, honorable, adventurous, and wealthy. No doubt he will be all that, but he will have problems in his relationship. Any questions so far? Somebody?
Yeah, is the positive things comes also because the seventh house is the second from the sixth. It will be famous, virtuous, honorable.
Oh, yes, absolutely.
It's for that reason. Yeah.
Absolutely,
Okay.
of course. Bhavat Bhavan. Indeed.
Yeah.
Thank you,
Yeah.
Margarita. Yes, indeed. Yeah. Now, if the sixth lord is in eighth house, the native will be sickly, inimical, will desire others' well, be interested in others' wives, and be impure. Now, you see the trouble with the sixth and the eighth. Actually, if you see, it's a very good combination, because in the actual, and I repeat again, ideally you want the 12th house, 6th house, and the 8th lords, all the lords of these going into each other's houses. That means you have a fantastic yoga. But all the Vedic tradition I follow, my guru always says, it's fantastic only up till a point, because invariably you land up in trouble, because either your somebody has to pass away, somebody close to you, it'll be like heart wrenching, and that's after that you may possibly inherit a tidy fortune. But what good is that fortune when you've gone through that whole emotional upheaval and that loss, you know? So that is the trouble with that sixth lords and eighth lords going into terrible houses. I mean, they had to go somewhere, to be honest, you know. So the sixth lord in eighth, he will be all these. Then if the sixth lord is in the ninth house, the native will trade in wood, stones. Passion also means poison, and will have fluctuating professional fortunes. Now, everybody recognizes Gaudi and yeah, Spanish architect, absolutely massive. If you go to Barcelona, you know, his Sagrada Familia is still being kind of, they've ran out of money, still being built, still being renovated, you know,
Well,
absolutely monumental. Yes, yes, Margaret.
yeah, it got on fire, I think, also. It was
Oh, well, yeah, well, there you go. I mean, in his chart, as we see, can you, everybody see, that's rising sign is Leo, Mars and Leo. Absolutely fantastic, yeah? Mars and Leo, beautiful. But you have The sixth lord, can everybody see this? The sixth lord, Shani, the sixth lord Shani is, where is it? It's in the ninth house. That's above.
Debilitated.
Exactly. Absolutely debilitated. Now, I have to say that you would rather have, if you have to have malefics, okay, in the kendras, then you want them to be debilitated. You don't want them to be very strong. That's another dictum, okay? Always remember that. Ideally, you don't want exalted malefics in the kendras, in the positive houses. You really don't, you know. And so here it is debilitated. So I guess that is his saving grace, you know. And also I think there is the cancellation of debility, because the ruler of it is Mars, which is on the kendra, which is on his rising sign in Lagna, okay. So that cancels out the debility. We do know the rules for debility cancellation, okay. Put it in the telegram if you want to be reminded of it again, okay. Now, so the native will trade in wood and stone. I mean, all his creations, if you see Gaudi's creation, if anybody's visited Barcelona, it's all beautiful, like, you know, stones and tiles, and absolutely stunning stuff he's made, you know. So obviously this dictum definitely played out. Anyway, then we come to, if the sixth lord is in the 10th, the native will be well known among his men, will not be respectfully disposed to his father, will be happy in foreign countries, will be a gifted speaker. Now this is Louis Vuitton. We all, you know, who doesn't know Louis Vuitton? He's iconic, you know, so definitely well known among men, will not be respectfully disposed to his father. Now, I would take that with, I don't know, I don't know his family, but I do know, what I do know from my research of it is, his father passed away very early on, and he could never find, he had problems with his stepmother, and his mother also passed away very shortly afterwards. So you see, he had a very traumatic childhood, well, I would imagine it would be traumatic. So you know, with no parents, and going to go and live with foster parents and things like that. So again, you know, that kind of played out, you know. He won't be happy with the father, and be happy in foreign countries. Well, he's got stores all around the world, you know, he did have, because he's, of course, you know, he's a founder, so he's not no more. And he will be a gifted speaker. So you see, all this is kind of very powerful yogas he's got here. Absolutely. And he's got the karma dharma dipadi yoga. You see the Vishnu sthana, the highest house. Can everybody see that? And Jupiter, the Lord of the ninth, in the 10th. Absolutely phenomenal. Can everybody see that? And the Lord of the sixth, superb. So he has, I mean, he created something which is lasting through generations. So you see that karma dharma dipadi Vishnu Lakshmi yoga. The trine house is Lakshmi, and the Vishnu sthana is the Kendra. Absolutely one of the highest yogas you can find. The Lord of the ninth and the 10th house. Okay, superb. So again here, okay. Then we come to 6th house and 11th. Native will gain wealth through his enemies, be virtuous, adventurous, somewhat benefit of progenic happiness. Okay. Now the sixth lord going into the 11th means you will be pulled up for all your problems, your, you know, all your negative things, but you will be successful in beating them, because 11th house is where we will be absolutely hit with everything, you know. So we will have to deal with them. Hence, I think we gains wealth from enemies. Be virtuous, adventurous, but benefit of progenic happiness. Again, because it mirrors the 5th house, so it's a problematic house. If the sixth lord is in the 12th, the native will always spend on vices, be hostile to learned people, and will torture living beings. Okay, that's a big one. I would encourage you to find examples of this. Okay.
Excuse
This
me,
is a,
madam.
sorry.
Yeah, I'd like to say something about the sixth ward in the 12th house. Actually, this is my case, but actually, this description does not relate to me at all. And I don't have these effects. Probably, I think that my birth time is wrong or something, but actually, Mercury is the lord of the sixth house and it goes to the 12th house together with Jupiter and Sun. This is
I
the
will stop
position.
right there. That's why you got it. You answered your own question. Well, of
Yeah.
course, it's not going to hold true because it's Mercury, it's with Jupiter. There is a Bhagavad Gita yoga. That's a great yoga. You
Yeah,
can't get a
that's
better
right.
benefit.
Yeah, that's right. But actually, Jupiter is combust and it is in Sagittarius as I am a Capricorn ascendant.
Yeah.
But Jupiter is just 0 degrees and 5 minutes, something like that. But actually, I'm not sure about my birth time. I have two options. One
Yeah.
of them is 9:30 and the second one is 10:30. So
Well, there
this
you
is,
go. I think we may have to explore it, but bear in mind that these will alter significations
yeah.
because if it is conjoined, remember what I began with, that if the
Mhm.
sixth law or the eighth law
Well,
is
I'm quite worried now because my son's got this combination. So,
no, Margarita, listen, like I said, Parashara is very sure. It's not, I have it too, but it has to
all
have an
right.
aspect, it has to have an aspect of, like for example, Taurus Lagna people, right?
Mm,
Any Taurus Lagna people, right? The Venus is in, sorry, uh, the Lord of the Lagna and the Lord of the sixth house are the same, okay?
yeah,
And Scorpio Lagna too. The Lord of
yeah.
Lagna is Mars
And
and
six.
sixth house is Aries.
Mm,
So you see the both lords are the same. So it will have, it'll be, you have to take that with a little bit of watered down, because you have to also see we haven't come to the secrets of the ascendants where how each of the lords affect, we have specific dictums for if you're Aries rising, which planet and what combination is good for you and all. It's not straightforward, like I said, Western one is everything go flows into one or the other. It's not. This is very, very traditional, very specific, and you have to take into account the fact that it is, whether it is with a benefic, and if this is the case, then it is absolutely fantastic if it is with a benefic. Okay, so bear that in mind. Now, the effects of the eighth house. Now we come to the eighth house. If it is in the first house, native will be devoid of physical felicity, will suffer from wounds, will be hostile to gods and Brahmins. Now, the thing with the eighth house is you have to figure out if it is, again, the same thing will apply. If you want, people, eighth house is also the house of gambling. And if it is in relation with the fifth house, then you are often going to keep, I'm not saying keep gambling, but I'm saying you're going to take risks about in your life. You make different decisions. And eighth houses are also the house of occult mysticism. So you will get famous because first house Lagna is where your fame is. So you will at some point get famous too. Okay. So please take this with a little bit of, don't panic. You have to assess everything. You have to also figure out where the Lagna Lord is going. But one thing is for sure, at some point you will suffer from some kind of wounds and some kind of problems and all that. Okay, but it won't be consistent. Okay, if the eighth lord is in the second, the native will be devoid of bodily vigor, enjoy little wealth, and will not regain lost wealth. Well, eighth house is gone. It's debts that you have to repay. So it's obvious if it is gone in the second house, you can't repay your it's something that you had to pay off. If the eighth lord is in the third, the native will be devoid of fraternal happiness, be indolent, devoid of servants and strength. Again, you have to see, devoid of servants. Well, maybe he's a freelance person. He doesn't have tons of people working for him. Be indolent. Well, maybe he'll, be a little bit relaxed and laid back. So you have to figure out how it works. But devoid of fraternal happiness, I think that is it's a very strong one. And I think that will I have seen that quite consistently. Okay, so if the eighth lord is in the fourth, the child will be deprived of its mother. He will be devoid of a house, lands, happiness, and doubtlessly betray his friends. Wow, that's a big one, huh? So that's why it's a bit tricky having the eighth lord to any of the kendras. It's a problem. And if the eighth lord is in the fifth, the native will be dull-witted, will have limited number of children, be long-lived and wealthy. I think one of the prime ministers of India, Morarji Desai, had his eighth lord, Saturn, exalted in the fifth house, and so that was pretty. He did live up to 100 years or so. So anyway, let's continue further. If eighth lord is in the sixth, he'll win over his enemies, be afflicted by diseases, and during childhood will incur danger through snakes and water. Now, when he talks about snakes and water, snakes you could well take not actual snakes, but it could mean toxins, and water means like thyroid issues and all that. Because anyway,
Mm.
the eighth lord going in the sixth is a problem, but like I again said, it's a good thing to have a negative house going into another negative house. It's like a thief or a thug going into another thug's house and killing him off, so that works out quite well. If the eighth lord is in the seventh, the native will have two wives. If the eighth lord is conjoined with a malefic in seven, there will surely will be downfall in his business. This is very important. Any assessment you make, because I find this a very powerful dictum, and it does absolutely 100% work. And when it means surely downfall in his business, now it means doesn't mean that he'll never do anything. It's just that at some point in his life it will go down. Okay, so that is how you have to read it. If the eighth lord is in the eighth, the native will be long lived. If the said planet is weak, being in the eighth, then longevity will be medium, while the native will be a thief, be blameworthy and blame others as well. You have to now make this is another homework I'm going to give you. How many people who have got eighth lord in the eighth?
Mm.
I know loads of people, and I can vouch for that they tend to blame for their problems either subtly or blatantly towards other people. Now, to be honest, eighth lord in the eighth is a good situation, but of course there is this inherent tendency to blame other people. Okay, if the eighth lord is in the ninth, the native will betray his religion, that is his dharma, be heterodox, probably be an atheist, will beget a wicked wife, and will steal others' wealth. Again, at least he has a wife. Think of the person with the eighth lord and the seventh. He may have two wives, but it'll be a bit of a misery there. So any connection with the eighth lord and the bhagya sthana, the house of destiny, the ninth house, is absolutely problematic. Okay, because he will be inimical towards his gurus and religion, no doubt about that. Okay, if the eighth is in the tenth, he will be devoid of paternal bliss, be a talebearer, benefit of livelihood. If there is an aspect in the process from a benefit, then these evils will not mature. That is obvious. If eighth lord is in 11th, native will be devoid of wealth, miserable in boyhood, but happy later on. It's conjoined a benefic, and being the 11th, native will be long lived. That is a beautiful, any connection. Let's say you have Saturn in the sorry, in the 11th house, and it rules your 8th house. That is superb, absolutely superb. And if it is with, let's say, Venus or something, it's going to be very, very positive. If the 8th lord is in the 12th, the native will spend on evil deeds, will incur a short life. But additionally, that is if there is additionally a malefic in the said house. Now, if you have the 8th lord in the 12th, you have the blessings of Lord Krishna. Some
I
lifetime,
have.
yeah, you have done a lot of sadhana of Lord Krishna, yeah. So that is how you need to see this. Now, effects of the 12th lord. Does everybody know Simone de Beauvoir?
Yep. Yeah.
Yeah, and Jean-Paul Sartre.
That.
Now, Simone de Beauvoir had the 12th lord in the 3rd house. The native will be devoid of fraternal bliss, will hate others, and will promote self-nourishment. Now, this is quite specific, okay? Will hate others. Simone de Beauvoir was like this feminist, absolutely ultimate feminist. Her book, The Second Sex and all, was absolutely famous, and she had an open relationship with Jean-Paul Sartre, and of course, you know, I think she has her sorry, her 12th lord, yeah, her 12th lord Venus is in the 3rd house, so she was bisexual now, and with an open relationship, so she was never, I don't know if she was really happy, but she was quite disliked, but she was formidable as well at the same time, you know, and quite self centered. And she even has remarked that she didn't have children because she didn't have time to focus on her education and her writing, you see. So that's kind of like pro- being too much into yourself, yeah. So this is a very specific, like I said, very specific one. While if you see Jean Paul's, you know, where's his 12th Lord? Come on, guys, unmute yourselves and tell me where's his 12th Lord.
So
I've
where
even
is
made
Venus?
arrows.
In the 6.
Yes, exactly. So again, he has a very good exchange between the 6th and the 12th, you see.
Mm.
And
It
remember
got
what,
also Venus and Mars in Parivartana.
yeah, absolutely. That's what I wanted to tell you. See this. Did we see didn't we do this? Oops, sorry. Didn't we do this a while ago that if the 6th Lord is in the 12th, the native will always spend on vices, be hostile to learned people, and will torture living beings. Okay. Okay. Now, this is what Sartre has. Let's see what. Now, firstly, this is how you figure out, okay, if that exchange actually saved him. But he was a heavy drinker, heavy smoker. He lost his eyesight. If you see his these are all side profiles, but he was short. He was like under 5 feet. He had squint, like problems with eyes. I think he became practically blind in his right eye. That is Mars in the 12th house. Mars in the 12th, any malefic in the 12th house will affect your right eye, okay? It will give problems. So you have to take care of it. But he used to smoke and drink and all of that. And so, so there you go. So this did play out very much, the 6th and 12th exchange. Yeah. Everybody okay with that? Can everybody see that? Yeah. Okay. So marching forward quickly, I want to just complete this. If 12th Lord is in the 4th, native will be devoid of maternal happiness, day by day accrue losses with respect to lands, conveyances, and houses. Wow, okay. So the effects of the 12th Lord in the 4th. So that doesn't bode very well. But you know, there is a very if these people move abroad, then it turns up in their favor. It's very positive. If the 12th lord is in the fifth, the native will be benefit of sons and learning. He will spend as well as visit shrines in order to beget a son. Now, that is interesting because fifth house is the house of. Now, again, like I said, it depends on if it's a malefic or a benefic that will mar that. Okay. If the 12th lord is in the sixth, native will incur enmity with his own men, be given to anger, sinful, miserable, and will go to others' wives. Now, this, as we just saw, our man Jean Paul Sartre had this, okay? So, of course, he had an open relationship. He had many lovers. He had his open relationship with, Simone was for this reason because he didn't want to be bogged down by just one person. So there you go, intellectually and otherwise. So if the 12th lord is in the seventh, native will incur expenditure. Well, of course, there's going to be, because 12th house is the house of loss, and seventh house is the wife and marriage. And so, on account of his wife, will not enjoy conjugal bliss and will be benefit of learning and strength. So, again, this is quite dire. If the 12th lord is in the 8th house, the native will always gain, will speak affably, will enjoy a medium span of life, and be endowed with good qualities. Wow. So we want that. Look at John Travolta. Does he have that? Can everybody unmute and tell me, does he have that?
Yes. Mercury is a lord of 12th house in the 8th house.
Yeah.
And together with the Sun, Venus?
Yeah, absolutely. Sun, Venus, and Mercury in the 8th house. Yeah. Now, see, guys, this is a classic example, okay, of this exchange between where's the 6th house?
Sagittarius.
Yeah, that's Jupiter. So that is very
11.
positive. So he
Ah.
will he gives a very good Parashara gives very good significations for that. But see this that there is an exchange between the 8th lord and Venus. Can you see that? The fourth and
Yes.
the 8th lord. That's a problem, isn't it? So I don't know about his mother, but I can tell you, because the Saturn rules his 7th house, his wife died last year of cancer, leaving.
And also, I think one son died.
Yes, exactly.
Because I was reading, he performed a Pitru sacrifice, like a ritual for the ancestor. I was reading an article about him, and also probably related to this 8th house.
Yes, absolutely. So you see the 7th. So like I keep repeating, ideally you want no 6th or 8th lords involved with the 7th lord. You don't want it, because otherwise his wife died last year. His son, who went into some kind of, like, I think he had like epileptic fits and things like that. He was suffering from that for years. So you see, all that is really problematic. And Parashara has another dictum that if after exchange, Saturn comes in the 8th house, right? So do you see the scissor yoga, Papa Kartari, Rahu, Saturn? Anyway, the sun will act as a malefic, like a cruel planet. So the 7th house is anyway problem. It's sandwiched between two malefics. So you see, but when Saturn comes, then it's even more of a malefic. You see?
There is the sun.
Yeah. So it's Sun, Saturn on one side in the 8th house and Rahu in the other. That's really terrible news. No wonder, his wife and all the problems that he's had. So anyway, that is how you assess it, it always plays out. That's why I said you don't want an exalted Saturn or Mars in the Kendras. You don't
So
really
me,
don't.
like in this case,
And it's a
some
retrograde.
yeah. Can we say also that, I mean, this even if exalted, is still brings sorrow in his personal life, in his home, basically,
Yes,
because it's a fourth house.
absolutely, totally. I mean, Saturn in the, yes, 100%. Saturn is not welcome in the fourth house. Fourth house is a very delicate house.
Yeah.
You know, you don't want malefics in the fourth house, and that too exalted. You know, you'll never feel at home. Your first experience of the mother is diabolical. So, sorry, but, it sounds harsh, but it is true. Hi, yes, hello? Okay, let's move forward. Let's say, where were we? Yeah. The 12th Lord in ninth will dishonor his elders, inimical to his friends, intent on achieving his own ends. Well, of course, you know, if the 12th is in the 10th, the native will incur expenditure through royal persons. Why royal? Because it's the 10th house. It's the Rajya Sthan, it's the roy, it's basically the seat, of royalty. The 10th house, one of the highest houses, and will enjoy only moderate paternal bliss, because you're going to keep spending on, and there, it's a problem, 12th house in the 10th. But if it is 10th house in the 12th, that's superb. There, your money will keep going. Your work will never stop. So that's another beautiful yoga to have, the 10th Lord in the 12th. If the 12th Lord is in the 11th, native will incur losses, be brought up by others, and will sometimes gain through others. So you see, wherever 12th Lord goes is bad news. Other than the 8th house, there's nothing much happening. If the 12th Lord is in the 12th, the native will face heavy expenditure, will not have physical felicity, be irritable and spiteful. Okay, so you see, guys, that the 12th Lord is a problem. You know, if it, unless it is in the 8th house, but even then, you will have to go through some kind of problems, some kind of loss in order to be able to reap the benefits of like a fortune or some kind of positive thing to happen. So is everybody clear on that? Now, did we cover, can I just ask, did we cover the 10th house last time? I'm not quite clear on that. Did we?
No, I think we didn't
No,
go.
I don't think
No, I don't
so.
think so.
Okay,
No.
so maybe we should just go quickly to the 10th house. Is that okay with everyone?
Yes, thank you.
Okay.
Yeah.
So now this is I want to at least cover a part of it, and then we'll just for 2 minutes, because this is extremely powerful yoga. If the 10th Lord is in the first house, that means it's in Lagna. The native will be scholarly, famous, be a poet, will incur diseases in boyhood, and be happy later on. His wealth will increase day by day. This is Kate Winslet. Look at her chart. Can everybody see her chart here? Beautiful Virgo rising, yeah? And the 10th Lord is in Lagna. Yeah? That is and exalted. Of course, there is a problem because it's the Sun Moon Yoga. It's a big problem because there is another, it's like Amavasya, it's like Rahu, Sun Moon is not welcome in any chart, especially if it is in your main Rashi chart. That means this lifetime you have to go towards the path of Vishnu, and certain mantras will help you to come out of it. And once you solve that problem, then it will be fantastic. Your life will be beautiful, but you have to solve that problem. Okay, so clearly I think she's managed it, though in her personal life I'm not quite clear on that. So anyway, so that has played out very well. If the 10th lord is in the second house, native will be wealthy, virtuous, honored by the king, charitable, will enjoy happiness from father and others. So there is a very, this is a Pandita yoga. This is a Maha Pandit yoga, it's called. It's a specific yoga where the Mercury is in its exaltation and it's with the sun. That means it's the Buddha Aditya yoga. So this is like a great scholarly yoga. Though I think I feel a little bit bad because um, she's a super clever woman. There's no doubt about that. Yeah. Is there any ideas? Hello, everyone, guys. If the no, okay. If the 10th lord is in the third, the native will enjoy happiness from brothers and servants, be valorous, virtuous, eloquent, and truthful. That is superb. These people who have the 10th lord in the third, they should go into an enterprise. You know, they will do very well with small projects. They'll do brilliantly with small projects, you know, which come to an end and things like that from time, like work on project based stuff. And they are very enterprising. The word enterprise is associated with this particular yoga. It's a brilliant yoga. Okay. Okay, if the 10th lord is in the fourth, the native will be happy, always interested in mother's welfare, will lord over conveyances, lands, and houses, be virtuous and wealthy. Because the fourth house is to do with also reality and property, that's why this yoga is absolutely beautiful. If the 10th lord is in fifth, the native is endowed with all kinds of learning, will always be delighted, will be wealthy and endowed with sons. Now, this is another Vishnu yoga, Vishnu and Lakshmi coming together. Okay, this is absolutely a brilliant yoga. If the 10th lord is in the sixth, the native will be benefit of paternal bliss. Although he'll be skillful, he'll be benefit of wealth and be troubled by enemies. Unless he does something like he's a doctor or a consultant or a you know, in one of the march, or a police person, or you know, unless it's a malefic like Mars, then he'll be like a lawyer. Then it's absolutely a fantastic yoga to have the 10th lord in the sixth. This is going to be superb for that person, you know. But there will be shades of where he won't have paternal happiness. There will be shades of that, but these are very karmic positions, you see. They are not like something, it is something for a reason. It's not like random. Okay, any questions? I think we will leave it for the next. Hello, shall we just do this last chart here? Hi
Yeah,
Okay.
let's do
guys.
it.
Yes.
Let's do it.
Yes.
Yes, we can.
Yeah, okay. So if the 10th lord is in the seventh, the native will be endowed with happiness through wife, intelligent, virtuous, eloquent, truthful, and religious. This is beautiful. But if the 10th lord is in the eighth, the native will be devoid of acts, long lived, and intent on blaming others. See, the thing with the eighth house is, it's the house of occult. It's about hidden things, you know. So anything that goes in there, any lord that goes in there in the eighth house, lands up being into trouble. But long live, because the eighth house is the house of longevity, you know. So it works out very positive, and the 10th lord is very auspicious. My suggestion to you is that put it in the telegram group, figure out your 10th lord, which house it is in, and there is a specific deity associated with that. Figure that out. Maybe next time we will cover that. Okay, if the 10th lord is in the ninth, one is born of a royal scion will become a king, whereas an ordinary native will be equal to a king. This placement will confer wealth, progenic happiness. Prince Harry, we all know him, right? Everybody, guys,
Yes.
you want to unmute
Yes.
yourselves. This is a
Yes.
beautiful, he's got that, right? Can you see that?
Yes, sure.
That's a brilliant yoga to have. In fact, as we speak, isn't Aren't they going to reveal all in today's Oprah Winfrey's show? Does anybody know about that? It's going to be aired today, this evening. So, anyways,
I think it was aired last night.
how was it? Did
Yeah.
you see it? Did anybody see it?
Yeah, it's quite revealing.
Oh, is it?
It was interesting, yeah.
Okay, so
Not what I expected, but yeah, it was very interesting.
okay, so was it like the Lady Diana's reveal a few years ago, like almost like 25 years ago or so?
There was a little bit of reference of the similarity of what Megan went through.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Anyway, so we can see that he's absolutely brilliant, and of course he's got the Hamsa Mahapurush Yoga, Jupiter in its own sign on the Lagna. My God, this person is absolutely a true king. There's no doubt about that. You know, absolutely royal, beautiful yogas he's got. So I think he will do very, very well. You know, whether he leaves or stays behind, it's irrelevant because he's truly a king. Okay, so everybody okay with that?
Yes.
Okay, so we will end today. Um, any questions so far?
Yeah, and what about the other two houses, ruler in the 11th and 12th?
I think we are
You're out of time?
well, maybe everybody okay with that? We have, I think people, okay, why don't we just finish it off? Yeah.
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay.
Okay.
Then we come to, yeah. Okay. Then we come to 10th Lord in 10th. 10th Lord in 10th is a superb placement. I have a friend, she's an astrologer. She's an editor, astrologer. Um, she's got 10th Lord Mars in the 10th house, and absolutely amazing. She's like a machine, like a chopper machine, super sharp, super focused, churns out stuff like there's no tomorrow. And that she's got that yoga, 10th Lord in 10th. I have great regard for that yoga. Yes.
Can I ask a question? What if it's conjunct a Melech, like Mars? Like it's Mercury conjunct Mars in the 10th. What would that be like?
Okay. Now, see, the thing is, if it is in the, you're talking of the 10th house. In the 10th house, Mars has got big bulb. See my last but one session I did on planetary joys, where the planet excels. Planet in the Mars in the 10th house, Sun in the 10th, and Ketu in the 10th house is in its absolute joy. Absolute.
Oh,
Okay.
really? Okay.
Absolutely. That's a great one. That means you have the blessings of the deity, the blessings of Yama, if you have Mars in the 10th house.
That's not me, but anyway.
No, but you will have the blessings, okay? So it depends on what sign. And then it's Mercury. Lot of people, I think it was Ernest Hemingway had that yoga too. I'm not sure. But one of the great writers have this yoga. It escapes my mind who, but we'll come to that. But I will try to dig it out. But Mercury is to do with writing and communication. So
Okay.
when the 10th Lord is in the 10th and it's with Mercury, it's a benefit. It's brilliant, you know. So yeah, it will work very well. It'll throw it. Mars will bring out the better aspects of it. Anyway, so moving forward, if the 10th Lord is in 11th house, the native will be endowed with wealth, happiness, and sons. He'll be virtuous, truthful, and always delighted. Wow. So you see, this is all very positive, no matter which house it's going to. The 10th house, if there is an activation, I would want you to be like focused on making sure that it's active. It's the 10th Lord. So if the 10th Lord is in the 12th, the native will spend on royal abodes, will have fear from enemies, will be worried in spite of being skillful. But this is another great yoga. Even though Parashara is saying will have fear from enemies, yes, they will have fear from enemies. but he's very skillful. Their work never ends. It's a beautiful yoga. It's a massive Raj yoga. Okay, this and 10th lord in 10th, often when a different dasha, the Vimshottari dasha won't work. Normal dashas don't work if you have 10th lord in the 10th. It's Chaturshiti Sama, Chaturshiti Dasha will apply for the 10th lord in the 10th. Okay, so again, these things are very, very important. As you go advanced, you will realize that these are not random placements, they are very specific. And 10th lord is one of the most auspicious placements to have. So anyway, we come to that. We are done. Any questions, guys? And then we have to end so that you guys can go off to the lodge thing. Remember that the lodge talks can be availed at for £5 only. Okay, for the people who attend the beginners classes. Any questions?
Nope.
Okay,